Hello everyone, welcome to today's video on Snappy Insights. Today I'll be sharing about Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States. Jimmy Carter unfortunately just passed, and this video is just to educate, and inform you about his life and times, and of course, some of the successes and challenges he had while in office. Like we already know, Jimmy Carter was the 39th President of the United States. He was sworn in on January 20, 1977, and he left office January 20, 1981. Jimmy Carter was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. I think he was one of the very few U.S. presidents that was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. And of course, that was because of his efforts, which we'll talk about in more detail as we progress. His efforts in humanitarian activities, negotiation, international negotiation, conflict resolution, and things like that. Examples in Panama, China, Iran, just to mention a few. And incidentally, Jimmy Carter has also been the only president to leave, the only former president, or even, to live up to 100 years. He's the longest lived US president, and he just passed at the age of 100. Now, Jimmy Carter, his full name, James Earl Carter, was born in October 1st, 1924, in Georgia. And of course, he was born to a farmer father and a businessman. His mother, Lydian, was a registered nurse. Jimmy Carter's childhood was surrounded. He spent his childhood on the farm because his father was a peanut farmer. So he spent most of his childhood on the farm, and of course he was also a devout Baptist, just like his parents. His parents were Baptists, and so he just grew up as a Baptist boy. He attended his school in Georgia, Georgian College, Georgia Institute of Technology, before he went to the U.S. Navy, the Naval Academy in Maryland, to obtain a Bachelor of Science degree. He obtained the degree in 1946. And of course, at the age of 21, in July 1946, the same year he graduated from the Naval Academy, he got married to Rosalind Smith. And the two of them had four children, three boys and one girl. James John Williams, James L. III, Donnell Jeffrey, and Ameline or Emmeline. Jimmy Carter resigned from the naval, from the Navy naval organization in 1953 after his father passed, to take over his father's farm, and that was where he was in Georgia until he ran for office in 1971. He became the governor of Georgia, and incidentally, 6 years after that, he was sworn in as the 39th president of the United States of America. Now, what are some of the successes that Jimmy Carter experienced while, at home in the U.S., or what are some of the domestic wins, if you want to call it that, of Jimmy Carter in the United States? Number one, in no particular order actually, was improved energy um, shortage, right? So there was an improvement in the energy, and that's because of the establishment of a national energy policy which Carter oversaw. And of course there was also some kind of decentralization of the domestic petroleum price, regulation, so that there could be more production of energy supply, and of course more investment in the energy sector, and that largely improved energy supply and reduced energy shortage. All right, I'm sorry, that should be reduced energy shortage, not improved. Pardon my um, typographical error. The second win was civil service reforms. Jimmy Carter came into office at the time when the U.S. civil service, was really undergoing some significant challenges in terms of racism, in terms of, you know, nepotism in the system, some kinds of maladministration and inefficiency, in the government civil service. So Jimmy Carter instituted a reform that helped to improve to a significant extent the United States civil service. There was also the regulation of truck, and airline industries. Industries that drive trucks. Yeah, that's a very big industry in the West actually. And of course, the airline industry was also deregulated so that they can private investors can come in, and of course, there can be an increase in terms of investment and operationalization in these areas. There was the expansion of environmental security, environmental life, with the acquisition of and protection of over 103 million acres of the Alaskan land. You know, so that was a significant win in the Carter administration because the lands in Alaska were undergoing certain environmental challenges. And so Jimmy Carter helped to secure those lands by extending the national park system and protecting, allocating resource to protect these these lands. And of course, which is one of the core aspects of Jimmy Carter's person and administration was his concern and his effort in human and security services or security and human and social security. He instituted the Department of Education, and of course, you know how important education is, and also improved, supported the social security system, you know, reduced racism, employed, widened, closed the gap rather, not widen, closed the gap in um, gender dimensions to employment, and employed several women of color, Hispanic women into government positions. So those are just a few of the domestic wins that Carter recorded while in office. On the foreign scene, we already said that Jimmy Carter was well known for his humanitarian efforts, and these were some of the areas that Jimmy Carter excelled, abroad. Um, he championed the human rights campaign globally, even though of course that was not appreciated and was resisted by some countries, including the Soviet Union. So Jimmy Carter was very instrumental in pushing, advancing the cause of human rights protection, human rights security. So that was one major policy advantage that he had. There was also the issue of peace in the Middle East between Egypt and Israel. Which Jimmy Carter was able to procure with what we call the Camp David Agreement in 1978, right? And of course, he also succeeded in obtaining ratification for the Panama Canal Treaty. You know, this treaty was signed by the United States and Panama. As a result of tension in the Panama around the Panama Canal. And of course, the United States, signed that in 2000 they were going to, hand over operation and control of the Panama Canal back to the Panama authorities, and they were going to they were going to stay clear from control of that territory, even though it was assigned. The Panama Authority gave them that territory to control. So that treaty was also signed as one of the major wins. Qatar also succeeded in achieving full diplomatic relationship with the Republic of China, and of course the um, Small Arms Limitation Treaty as well. Sorry, Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty, the SALT II, was also one of the wins of Jimmy Carter. Signing this or ensuring this treaty passed with the Soviet Union, even though of course the Soviet Union went back on it, somewhere along the line um, in that regime. So these are just a few of the foreign policy, um, successes and wins abroad of the Qatar regime. Some challenges that Jimmy Carter faced. One major one was the hostage. The 50 Americans were taken hostage by the Iranian government in 1979. and that was for over 400 days. These Americans were in the Iranian custody, and of course the effort by the U.S. Government to rescue them in 1980 was also, didn't wasn't successful. The effort failed, and so these were some of the major challenges which Jimmy Carter's administration had, and of course there were also some of the main reasons why he lost to Ronald Reagan um, in 1981 when he sought re-election. You know, Fortunately, the Americans who were held hostage were released. On the very day that Jimmy Carter left office, January 20, 1981. They were released, and like I said, the SALT II agreement, you know, um, was also reneged upon when the Soviet Union invaded Iraq. So that was also another challenge of Ronald Reagan's, Jimmy Carter's administration. And the rising inflation in the U.S. economy didn't also help matters a lot. So these are some of the challenges that the Carter's administration had. But summarily, Jimmy Carter was hailed for his um, for his for his expertise in negotiating, international conflicts, in procuring, peaceful settlements of disputes among allies and of course other international actors. So Jimmy Carter was quite instrumental in in the peace, in peacemaking, peace building, on international stage, and I think that was why he was a recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. All right. Unfortunately, Jimmy Carter has been laid to rest, and this video was just to give us an idea of some of the life and times of Jimmy Carter as the 39th President of the United States. Um, these are some of the references that were consulted in putting this snappy insight together. I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you have benefited from it, please like, consider sharing, and of course consider subscribing as well, because I'll be having more of such videos on snappy insights where I would share, information on key aspects of humanities and social sciences specifically, which you might also, um, learn from. So please consider subscribing, consider sharing, liking, and of course, drop your comments. If you have topics you want me to speak about, you want me to talk about, please drop them in the comment section, and I'll do well to, put out a video on those topics. Until I see you in the next video, it's bye for now.